Hello everyone, it's great to see you, welcome back. And today, I'd like to talk about this game. Bomb Rush Cyberfunk. Quite the name for a game. I love it. I love the art style on the front, paired with, quite again, colorful art here on the back as well. Bomb Rush Cyberfunk was a game I was quite excited for, and a big reason why is I love Jet Set Radio. I'm a huge fan of the art, the creative style, the type of game that Jet Set is, and so when I first saw this announced, I thought, oh, well, this is Jet Set Radio on the next gen consoles, and so here we are. I have it in my hand. I played through the game, and wanted to talk a little bit about it, just to kind of share my experiences with the game. And before we get there, of course, just showing off the game here as well. You'll notice that the game was developed and published by Team Reptile, and that was within a partnership with I Am 8-Bit. Though, interestingly, I don't think I got this copy off of I Am 8-Bit's site. I almost want to say I bought it from Target or something like that. Nonetheless, we have here on the front the main character that you play as, and on the inside we have the disc, of course. I do like that the art is a little different from what you get on the packaging. You can always appreciate that. And the other little bonus item you got is a little pack of stickers, which these stickers actually look very, very cool. I haven't opened them because it's one of the things that I do, I guess. But that's about it. You don't get a manual or anything. Very simple and straightforward, but I do like the addition of the stickers. Let me set that up here on the shelf. So Team Reptile is a Dutch studio, and they've developed a couple indies that kind of take on the same art style almost. I think Lethal League is the name of the game, and it has a sequel as well. But outside of that, they're a pretty new studio. This game was developed and released over the last few years, and the game received generally good reviews, with people citing, some simple design, some awkward combat. But I was looking forward to it and getting my hand on a physical copy so I could play through the game. And yes, here we are. And so let's talk a little bit about the game. What is the gameplay like? How does the game play? So you play as a member of the Bomb Rush crew, who is a graffiti spraying, breakdancing, rollerblading, skating, biking crew that challenges rival gangs around New Amsterdam to control 5 boroughs across the city. And throughout the game, you'll see yourself quite smoothly traversing land obstacles, grinding, wall riding, pushing very simple combinations of buttons to complete tricks across the game. And gameplay-wise, you can't really fall and take damage or hurt yourself. And so the only way damage can be incurred is through attacks from the police, who you'll have to fight occasionally and will appear as your heat level raises from completing graffiti tags essentially around the game world. The game is pretty simple, as I mentioned. I mean, you can basically jump, and then you have a series of buttons you can press, square, triangle, circle, which will have you completing a different trick, and the trick is different depending on if you're in the air, or you're on a rail, or you're on the ground, or if you're using your special jetpack to kind of boost yourself around the map a little bit. But that's about it. And so a lot of the challenges are going to be pretty straightforward, and the game feels very casual to play. I would say there's not a whole lot of challenge here at all. But essentially, yeah, you'll arrive in this new borough. There will be a number of optional tags that you can go around and tag up. And then there will be various little story missions where you'll have to complete certain combos, or maybe you have to get a higher score than the rival team that you're fighting off against. But the challenges overall are very simple and straightforward, is the way that I'd go ahead and put it. I did really like that from a UI lens. The UI is pretty much restricted to just your phone. There's not a whole lot else happening on the screen. And I always love when games have a very minimal UI presentation, because it continues to push you into the immersion of playing the game itself, and kind of less distractions on the screen so that you can just enjoy the art and visually what the game is doing, which this game is doing a lot with that. And then the phone itself is just really fun to interact with. There's a little Flappy Bird game on it. You can take selfies, and I really like that the phone itself is an interactable object within the world. So like if you do the selfie mode and you're riding around in your skateboard, you'll see in the camera's UI that your character is there pushing and doing tricks and flipping through the air, which I always thought was funny. And there's a couple of combinations you can pull off. Like say you go up a street light and you stall and you do a trick. If you have your phone out, then all of a sudden your character's like kind of just floating in the air and stuff like that. So the way in which all of these elements are coming together to just interact within the game world, I really love just kind of messing around and feeling it out. And I'm someone who grew up playing, the Tony Hawk games, Jet Set, the skate games. And so these kind of games, which are just straightforward, casual, ride around and enjoy the vibes, really work for me and always has quite worked for me. And so, yeah, from that lens, the game was quite enjoyable. I think one of the areas where the developers, I would assume, wanted you to find new ways to innovate is with, they have these trophies where you have to achieve certain high score levels on many of the maps. And these can be super challenging from a point combo lens, because your ability to increase your multiplier and continue to do tricks is very limited, and it's mostly limited just because of the game's design. As I mentioned, the button combinations that you can pull off for a lot of tricks, there's not a whole lot exactly going on there. And so as a result, you kind of lose the variation that I think the developers would have wanted in saying, hey, go out and get 1,000,000 points on this level in one fair go, without it feeling somewhat simple and repetitive, which is not too big of a problem because the game does not overstay its welcome. It's a pretty straightforward and not terribly long game. But when you add in these kind of challenges, I would anticipate that they would have wanted you to do a little more. But I'm doing everything I can. I'm grinding, I'm wall riding, I'm doing every trick in the air and on the rail and speeding up with my booster and pulling off the special tricks as well. And it still takes me, 20 minutes to pull off some of the combos. And so, from the lens of really pushing out the game as far as it can in terms of like, hey, go and do these high scores. Maybe a little much. But still quite fun. And I really enjoyed just riding around and, again, just enjoying those vibes. There's a little bit of combat in the game as well. And this really is just a one-button press situation where you just press it a few times and your character pulls off a combo without any guidance, right? So you can't like target or lock on an enemy. At least I don't remember being able to. And so the fighting does feel pretty floaty. And while it's not super concerning, there are moments where you must employ the combat, especially in a couple boss encounter scenarios. And I don't think these are very well executed, and nor does the game really prepare you for some of those challenges. You kind of just have to learn them right there on the fly. And so as a result, it does feel a little clunky and a little awkward. I would agree with some of the other reviews that came out about this game when it initially launched. But similarly, this is a very small piece of the pie in terms of playing the overall game, and so it didn't really hold back from me and just enjoying the game outside of it. And it's not like because it was clunky did I face a boss and like I got stuck there, like I was fighting Mikola or something in Elden Ring. It wasn't one of those situations. So again, not super concerning. So overall, the game is quite fun, and I think they pair it with a pretty fun and entertaining story. And so the game takes place in this city called New Amsterdam, which is a futuristic cyberpunk world. A big aspect of the game is that people are able to switch body parts, cybernetically and organically. And at the start of the game, you play as a character named Foe, and he is in a jail cell, and he meets this guy Trice, who is part of the Bomb Rush crew. And you break out of jail together, and in that process, Foe, his head gets lopped off, unfortunately. You lose your head. And you kind of end up and wake up back in Trice's hangout, and now you have a cybernetic head. And so the story is really about getting your head back and ultimately becoming the all-city king in the process, a process of which you take on the rival gangs and take over the city, essentially, with your breakdancing, graffiti spraying skills. So I thought the game just overall had a very fun, vibe to it, and the story was kind of intriguing, I would have to say, entertaining and fun. It never takes itself too seriously, but there is some bit of humanity and deepness that goes back to the ideas of getting your head back and some aspects of identity, which you'll learn if you decide to play through the game yourself. But I really enjoyed that. The characters grew on me quite a bit. By the end of the day, I did look back fondly on those characters and the time I spent in New Amsterdam with them. So I always appreciate that the game doesn't have to go all out there to have a good story, to really present the game itself, but they went ahead and did that. They brought something that I at least found to be fun and entertaining for what it was. And so yeah, pretty solid story. And I think a big aspect of this game is the other two things I want to talk about, which is the sound and visually the art and the graphics of the game. So thinking about this from a sound design perspective, this game's sound is all about its soundtrack. There's no voice acting as far as I can remember. The sound effects are really just there to kind of emphasize what your character is doing in the moment. But the music here is so awesome. And Team Reptile partnered with Hideki Naganuma, I think his name is. And he produced some tracks that were on Jet Set. And so he came back and worked on Bomb Rush Cyberfunk as well, which is pretty sweet that they just decided to go ahead and take that step of not just saying, this is a successor, but also we're bringing in the people who worked on the game, So I did find that to be pretty entertaining. But some of the tracks are so awesome and go from everything, electro funk to some like more trappy sounding songs and things like that. And they were so good that I found myself putting some of them on my Spotify playlist just so I could go back and just enjoy them and listen to them again. And so I think alone this game's soundtrack is worth just checking out. Even if you don't play the game, like just go listen to the music and give it a try. That music alone was worth me just popping the game on sometimes and just riding around because I just wanted to listen and have fun and enjoy what the game was presenting there. So sound is fantastic. I mean, they really knocked it out of the park for that one for me. And from an art style perspective, graphically, I mean, you look at this game, it's very much inspired by Jet Set. Again, they kind of have this more cel-shaded style, but I think the best way I could describe where the art was going in this game is just loud. It's colorful, it's abrasive, there's multiple art styles and things going on when you're doing graffiti or the way in which the various burrows are designed throughout the course of the game. And I honestly just found it really impressive. And on the PlayStation 5, the performance is really good too, with the game moving at a smooth 60 frames. I never experienced any juddering or anything like that. So overall, just loved the presentation of the game. And the game gives you a lot of art styles to work with. And I believe some of that, I don't know much about the graffiti scenes, so I'll kind of pause there. I'm thinking like Mark Echoes, where they brought in like these old school legends and they did all these impressive art pieces for the game itself. I don't know if they did that in Bomb Rush Cyberfunk, but every one of the art pieces here is very unique, very different, and super impressive. And I was jumping up on the wall and I'd put in my little combination to throw out a graffiti piece. I never really got narrowed down to exactly which one it was going to be because the way in which you got to flip through and manage the different patterns and learn them was a little much. But the game doesn't expect you to know that. You're not getting more points depending on what kind of art piece you put down, unless you're like repeating different ones in a combo. But I just loved looking at them. It didn't matter what popped out. I thought that the art was cool and made the area look even more fun because here I have plastered graffiti all over it. And so those are a lot of the big aspects of the game. I think another thing that comes to mind is the final boss. I encountered a really challenging glitch where moving into the final phase of that boss, for some reason, he would just not activate and trigger that final cutscene. So I had to play through the final boss a handful of times, 4 or 5 times, before it would actually let me kind of progress forward to finish the game. And I don't know why exactly that happened, but it did. It was kind of unfortunate. It didn't kill my enjoyment of the game, but it made me say, hey, I'm trying to finish this game. just let me finish the game, please. Please, let me finish the game. So that's kind of where I got to. But those are a lot of my thoughts on the game. So from a gameplay lens, it's a little simple, it's a little straightforward, but you have a lot of fun ideas going on here that for the runtime of the game never really feel as if they ran their course. So I did really enjoy just overall experiencing them and enjoying this as, you know, not only like a skateboarding, biking, rollerblading game with fun art and cool music, but as a platformer as well. The game's just really fun across the board. The story, I like the story a lot. It's simple, but it does present some fun concepts, and I love kind of cyberpunk stuff, so I always give it a little bias there in terms of my appreciation of it. Soundtrack is incredible, and visually I thought this game was really cool. So it's not going to blow you out of the water and be like a 10 out of 10, you know, AAA, like, oh wow, they really went through the ringer to create this. And I don't think that's what the game wanted to do. The game has a very unique persona in the way it's played, in the way it looks and sounds, and its identity. And I can tell that not only did the people who made the game have an appreciation for the inspirations they were pulling from, but just in general, they had a vision for what exactly they wanted to produce with this game, and they executed on that and nothing more. And I feel like in today's modern world, we get so many games that feel like they have to have so much content, so many hours of gameplay, so much to do, that it ends up kind of dragging and feeling, you know, repetitive in some way. And so I think that this game kind of cuts off and finishes right where it needs to. I had a lot of fun with the game. I'd recommend picking it up. And I'm curious if you played Bomb Rush Cyberfunk. If you did, please let me know your feelings on the game. Would love to hear what you thought. And as always, I appreciate you tuning in. If you liked the video, please like the video and subscribe. We'd love to have you around for the next one. All right, y'all. Well, until then, you take care. I'll see you then.